Visit Elmhurst.org to explore the new City of Elmhurst website. Find out the latest Elmhurst news, pay utility bills and parking tickets, report concerns, and much more. Elmhurst.org is an ideal way to discover what Elmhurst offers your business, your family, your life.
Welcome to Elmhurst Time Travelers. I'm Ken Bartels, your host, and as you can see, we're not in our usual Churchville Schoolhouse shooting location. Instead, we're out and about in the Elmhurst community. In fact, we're going on a tour, a rock tour, an Elmhurst rock tour. Throughout our community, you see rocks. Some of them are memorials, some of them commemorate special events. And we're going to visit 13 of them on our tour. It seems appropriate that we start right here, rock number 1, and I'll read it to you. 100 feet to the east is the site of the historic Cottage Hill Tavern, built in 1843. The Cottage Hill Post Office established here in 1845. The name Cottage Hill replaced by Elmhurst in 1869. And this rock has been here since 1936. Now, Cottage Hill, the former name of Elmhurst, survives only this rock and the street we're on, the corner of Cottage Hill and St. Charles Road. Now, the tavern itself still exists. It was moved to 413 South York, where it still is, but there's no rock there. We'll move on to our second location. And we're here with a very special rock, an urn from the top of the Cook County Courthouse in the city of Chicago, just prior to the Great Chicago Fire of October 1871. It's here in Wilder Park because Elmhurst was a center for the rebuilding of Chicago after the fire. So when you're in Wilder Park, near the Park District Conservatory, brand new conservatory, step away for a piece of Elmhurst and Chicago history, right here in the middle of town. We continue on our Elmhurst Rock Tour, and we're here with some very special rocks in Wilder Park, right in the middle of town. And with me is Ralph Paccianio, chair of the Veterans Memorial Commission. And Ralph, this is a very special place.
Yes, it is, Ken. This site goes back to 1987. In 1987, the American Legion and the VFW Post formed a joint committee. They put in some seed money, and they wanted to build an appropriate Veterans Memorial here in Wilder Park. It took them approximately 5 years to lay some groundwork, but they weren't at the point where they had met success. So in 1992, in January, they sent a blind letter to the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce addressed to the president. And as fate would have it, I was the president that year in 1992. Tachi Taronis, who was the chamber manager, and I met with the veterans groups, and we determined that we would be very happy to work with them and to do their fundraising and bring this memorial to its conclusion. So in November of 1992, thanks to the great community support that we received, this memorial had a groundbreaking. That was on Veterans Day '92, and by Memorial Day of May 1993, we had the formal dedication, and the memorial has been running ever since then, and I have acted as the chairman since that date.
The memorial itself, I see people here throughout the year, but there's two very special days for this Veterans Memorial.
Yes, we're approaching one, and that's Memorial Day coming up here on May the 26th. And of course, the other special day is Veterans Day, which is always on November the 11th. However, in between, we honor veterans at the request of their friends and families, and they send applications into the city. I respond to them, handle all the administrative matters, and we go from there, and we're pleased to make this a living memorial.
Thank you, Ralph. This is a very special place and very unique rocks as we continue our tour. And now we're on the front campus of Elmhurst College, near the Reinhold Niebuhr Memorial. And this rock commemorates the college's founding in 1871. There's that year again. This time, the college was founded in December, just a few weeks after the Chicago fire. And the story goes that the first professor and students of Elmhurst College actually lost all their belongings for several months because of the train problems coming from the fire. So when you're on the campus, which has all sorts of memorials and commemorative items, and you're touring the Arboretum, which it also is, stop by this rock too. I think it'll be interesting for you. If you've ever gone on to Robert Palmer Drive going north at York Road, you've seen this rock on your right-hand side as you turn. It's the U.S. Constitution Tree Memorial, and it was placed there in memory of Robert T. Palmer, city manager of Elmhurst from 1953 to 1983. The Elmhurst Garden Club and the Elmhurst Forestry Division planted the actual tree in 1989. Bob Palmer was the first Elmhurst city manager. Since 1953, the city has had only three: Palmer, Thomas Borchert, and currently Jim Grabowski. We're outside the Elmhurst Historical Museum, and we have its director, Brian Berghager, with us. And Brian, what's the story on this rock behind us?
Well, Ken, the Big Rock has a great historical story. It started its life in Salt Creek, which was where early settlers found homes here in Elmhurst when they came here in the mid-1830s. The German settlers settled north of North Avenue, and people of English ancestry settled south. That area grew up, and the rock became known as the Swimming Rock. It was located in an area called Growey's Woods, which was just north of North Avenue. So folks in Elmhurst would go to Growey's Woods for picnics and private parties, and they would use the Big Rock as a diving board in the middle of Salt Creek. It was, I understand, conveniently located around a bend where it was not observable by people on either Route 83 or North Avenue, so it provided some privacy as well.
And how long has it been in this location?
That's another part of the story, Ken. It was moved here in 1976 as part of the city's celebration of the U.S. bicentennial.
Terrific. I think this is a rock that people are very familiar with. And thanks for sharing. We're going to go right across Palmer Drive with Brian for our next stop. Brian Berghager is still with us on our tour, and we're across the street from where we just were with Big Swimming Rock, and this is the Gloss Memorial Park. And Brian, who are the Glosses and why would they have a park?
Well, the Glosses have a park in Elmhurst because it's named after Henry and Lucy Gloss. Henry and Lucy lived in the Gloss Mansion, which today is Elmhurst Historical Museum. And the Gloss family consisted of early settlers in Elmhurst. They're often considered some of the early founders.
And what's that strange looking building behind us?
Well, that building is actually a memorial area. That's a mausoleum for Henry and Lucy. They rest in the mausoleum.
They're both there.
They both are there.
Most people wouldn't know that. So we're at Park Avenue in Elmhurst as we continue our Elmhurst Rock Tour. Across from 408 South Poplar Avenue, near St. Charles Road, is an odd site for a purely residential area, a cemetery. These gravestone rocks have been here, some of them at least, since 1906. The large monument you see belongs to Adam and Katharina Gloss. It's my understanding that members of both the Gloss and Bates families are here, under lock and key. Now, Elmhurst has a number of cemeteries within its boundaries, but this one has to qualify as the smallest and the most distinctive, given where it's located. Located just outside of the Elmhurst City Hall is the Millennium Fountain. Dedicated in 2002, this rocks and water feature is meant to serve as a reminder of the ideals and creativity that has shaped the Elmhurst community in the past and will do so into the future. There are 84,000 pounds of stone used in the fountain, and it recirculates about 1,000 gallons of water each hour. The stones represent the spirit of cooperation, and the water the process of moving smoothly through the challenges of time. Stuck within this mini pine grouping at North and Melrose and Emroy Avenues, you find one of several rocks which commemorate our city's 150th anniversary back in 1986. Some of these are located in small plots that lended themselves to be used in this fashion, and as we'll see again later in the tour. Quote, "This planting of pines, as well as similar plantings made at other locations, was made in 1986 to commemorate Elmhurst's sesquicentennial as a community. May all who view them know that they were planted with great pride and symbolize the town's continuing evergreen commitment to provide a pleasant, safe, quality environment for its residents through its public services," unquote. The sesquicentennial was a multi-event undertaking in 1986. It included something called Sample Elmhurst, which morphed into Elmfest a few years later. This rock is easy to miss, so pay close attention if you go looking for it. Yep, another pine forest rock. It says the same thing as our last stop. I wanted to show you this one to illustrate my point about there being several of these scattered around. This one is at Walnut Street, where it meets the Lake Street frontage road. Pretty obscure. There are likely others around. I just haven't found them yet. Maybe you have. We are at the hub in Barron's Park on the north side of the city. Big disclaimer here because this is a rock celebrating the Rotary Club of Elmhurst, and I'm a member of that club. Nonetheless, the rock reads for itself. This playground commemorates the 100th anniversary of Rotary International and the 50th anniversary of the Elmhurst Rotary Club that funded a portion of this playground in June 2004. All through Elmhurst, there are plaques citing the wonderful work that all our service clubs and other organizations do. As you wander around Elmhurst, pay some attention to them. You might learn something. We're at the Oasis Rock at the corner of the Prairie Path and Spring Road. It's number 13 on our tour. There are a lot more we could visit, but frankly, the camera crew's all tired, and so we'll stop here. We're adjacent to the September 11 Memorial, and we're here in a very prominent area. The Prairie Path represents travel and movement in our community. Walking, running, jogging, whatever you do. And I'd like to challenge you. We've visited 13 rocks in our town. Go find them this summer, however you seek to do. Or go find some on your own. It's a great family exercise. For Elmhurst Time Travelers and the Elmhurst Rock Tour, I'm Ken Bartels. We'll see you again.
The Churchville Schoolhouse opens the door to the best education in history. Visitors to the Churchville Schoolhouse take a step back in time to watch history unfold in a restored National Register of Historic Places property that dates to the Civil War era. Students of today walk in the footsteps of local farm children from the early days of DuPage County for an authentic living history experience led by a schoolmarm of the early 1900s. A visit to the Churchville Schoolhouse is hands-on, educational, and fun. Participants use slate chalkboards and McGuffey readers for the day's lessons. And children will be asked to follow proper classroom etiquette. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are practiced, and students test their skills during an old-fashioned spelling bee. And of course, no school day is complete without recess featuring games of the early 1900s. The schoolhouse is a popular place for scouts and day camps too. Group visits can also be arranged for service clubs, tour groups, and other adult organizations. The Churchville Schoolhouse Living History Program is operated by the Elmhurst Historical Museum. Call the museum today to book a field trip or find out more information. Call 630-833-1457 or visit our website at churchvilleschoolhouse.org. The Churchville Schoolhouse is waiting to open the doors for your school or community group. Plan a memorable learning experience today for the best education in history.